one of the things we also heard about Shane Beamer, you hear about coaches now, is he's a CEO type. And that's sort of I feel like there's a shift. What we're moving to is coaches being sort of that fun, laid back CEO type, like you said, delegating, letting their coordinators do everything and kind of handle everything, instead of being maybe the Will Muschamp type of coach or the hard-nosed type of football coach.
Yeah.
Do you feel like at some point, because again, you've coached before, so I'm really curious to get your insight on this. Do you feel like there was a shift, like when that started happening, of going to, because I feel like people, again, and as much as I hate to say it, people look at the Clemson model and the Dabo Swinney model and how he was a guy just like Shane Beamer, was never a coordinator, was just an assistant, never a head coach, but he went out and hired great assistants, lets them work for him, and he handles building the culture, recruiting, media, dealing with boosters, all those other things like you talked about that people don't really think about that a head coach has to handle. But do you feel like there was a shift in regards to, going from the old school type of model to this new school, I guess, CEO type of head football coach?
Well, Chris, it's a great question. I actually asked him that because I love asking first-time head coaches, especially right when they get the job, what type of head coach are you? And I thought his answer, and if, your audience wants to go check it out, it was a great answer. He kind of said he was still feeling himself out a little bit. And then this was during spring. And it's funny, just because where you are during practice as a coach, when it changes, it's so weird. And he talks about it, typically at practice, in my roles, I was with a certain group the whole time, and that's just how it worked. Well, now as the head coach, I can't be here too much. I can't be there too much. Actually getting to walk around and see everything, it's different. But Chris, to your question, I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I'll give you an example. You have, the Nick Saban hands-on approach. It's going to be my strategy, really. And he made a big leap letting offensive guys start.
See, I feel like, not to cut you off, Jake, I feel like Saban is like the last of a dying breed. And I think that's one of the reasons why you sort of saw a lull in coaching prowess in the SEC over the last couple of years. Like from 2010 to 2020, there was just this thought process of, like I said, oh, you worked under Nick Saban, we're going to hire you. And it just turned out a lot of these guys, they were not fit for that role. They were not the best available options. It really felt like the good old boy system. I mean, hey, all due respect, hey, this might piss off some of your listeners. I don't know if they'll tune into it, but Kirby Smart, all due respect to what he's done at the University of Georgia, I look at Kirby Smart, he's Will Muschamp with a better roster. He would have had the exact same fate in Columbia because they're all wired that way. They're all these defensive guys that, for whatever reason, it seems like cannot get out of their own way. Yeah. And that's why I was so happy, again, speaking on Shane Beamer, I was so happy to see South Carolina step outside of that thought process and just think for once outside of the box and go get a guy and roll the dice and just take a chance. Continue.
Well, no. It's a great point. But to me, and even Nick Saban, and here's to me where the Nick Saban genius kicks in. And you're exactly right. And Kirby's figuring this out now, and finally he's got a quarterback I think he trusts, is that the days of winning 9-6 and 20-3 and holding opponents to 10 points a game, that's gone. You have to score.
What was it? I think it was the 2011 Bama defense that held opponents to 12 points per game.
It was ridiculous. But when you look at it, he decided, listen, I've got to start spreading out the offense a little bit, trusting the offensive guys. Because it used to be listen, we're going to play defense. We're going to run the ball and not turn it over. We're going to win the field position battle on special teams. And we're going to beat you 24-7 or 24-10 because that's what wins. Well, now you've got to score points to win. And coaches, and this is Gus Malzahn's fate to me. He never evolved offensively. He kept running the same stuff when the game was changing and people figured it out. It's great to have a great year or a couple great years, but the game always evolves. 40 years from now, everybody will be running the triple option again. That's just how it is. But when I look at Kirby Smart, his biggest problem, because it's not lack of talent. They got as much talent as anybody over there, and they recruit as well as anybody. And that's one of his biggest strengths. And he's got the blueprint from Saban. But Kirby offensively really kind of suppressed the offense, and it cost him. It really costs them, especially in the big games. They make it a national championship game, but you don't win. And at the end of the day, Georgia fans are expecting a championship, and Kirby's kind of getting past that corner, I think, with Todd Monken and JT Daniels. But I go back and you talk about a CEO type head coach. One of the first guys, really, in my opinion, to do it was Tommy Tuberville at Auburn to have success. He wasn't in there drawing up inside zone, stuff like that. He'd hire his coaches. He'd trust them. He was the CEO. He would handle the discipline with Coach Yox. And when you have, because society and recruiting is a moving target. It's changing. And now with this NIL stuff, it's going to change even more. And if you have a guy that will not hire his friends because they're his friends, and hire guys that he trusts and let him coach, that does a couple things. It empowers the coach, which empowers his mind. It increases creativity. It increases the trust between the coaching staff and the camaraderie. But it shows the players that the man in charge trusts the guy that's telling them what to do. And when you have that, that is worth its weight in gold. And you've got everybody pushing in one organism. And it's not bad to segment it at all, to say, listen, I'm a CEO, head coach. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think Shane's going to be a mix of that. I think what you're going to get is a hybrid of this new coaching kind of tree that you're seeing coming out. You still have guys that'll be CEOs. You'll have a couple that are the hands on everything, stubborn, whatever you want to call it. But I think you're getting guys that are kind of hybrids, and those are going to be the most dangerous at the end of the day, because just like a quarterback that can run and pass, Chris, a coach that knows the X's and O's, lets his coaches coach, can build the culture and recruit, that's a dual threat, gives you a chance to win more games in different ways.